In what has been framed over the past 100 or so years as the elusive lost land of gold, Ophir, we have seen one claim after another of yet another land claiming to be that land of gold, based on, usually, etymologies. And that's it. Really, no actual evidence. We see this time and time again. The funny thing is, the world had really settled that debate long ago, but when the Spanish lost the war, the British got their way because they were on the other side of the argument, and they began suppressing this well-known, well-recorded history that really wasn't a mystery. Now, we've proven that on this channel over and over. They then begin to make claim after claim. Why? To muddy the waters. It's agitation. It's actually a very standard principle of those who wish to muddy the truth and deceive. So people would just throw up their hands in frustration. Oh, no one can possibly find it. Well, that's just plain nonsense. It can be found. It always has been able to be found. It was found for thousands of years. People knew where it was. And all of a sudden, we have amnesia, thanks to Britain. The amazing thing is Britain has never actually disproven, not one claim, of the Philippines being Ophir. Doesn't address that, just dismisses it, and then goes off, oh no, it's over here in Peru. Yeah, we disproved that one. Oh no, it's over here in India. Oh no, it's in Malaysia. No, it's here. Oh no, Britain is Tarshish even. Yeah, right. It's even in the wrong direction. So they're biblically illiterate on purpose, willing ignorance, just like Peter warned. This is what we're up against in these last days. Now is the time to know exactly where Ophir, Sheba, and Tarshish are, and where they are not. And it is time for them, the true Ophir, Sheba, and Tarshish, to rise to their rightful place in the world, and Britain has no say about it, nor any place in it. One such claim is that India must be Ophir. Now, we will give them that India does in fact have the resources on Solomon's list. Yes, it does. And at least they are east of the Red Sea in the right direction. Okay. But only to watch the ships of Tarshish pass by, of course, as they went much further right by there. Oh, and we'll show you actual history from India says so. Now let's break down this claim, and you will learn for yourself the truth. Did Britain win this debate 300 years ago, or did they lose? Well, we assure you, they will lose by the end of this video. You are watching 100 Clues. The Philippines is the ancient land of gold, Ophir, and we are not on a mission to guess and make claims. No. We are proving the Philippines is and always has been Ophir. And there really is no room for any other land. You will find that India, like the others, has no logical claim. Anyone can toy around with words, etymologies. Oh, that came from here. Oh, look, there's a 5-letter word. That must have come from this 7-letter word from this over here in this land, a totally different language. Maybe, but can they prove it? No, they don't. They don't bother. This is the whole element of this mixing that's been going on for thousands of years, really. This is not new. But only one land can be Ophir. By the way, the Brits actually claim, as we showed in one of our previous videos, that Ophir isn't just India, it's also India, it's Malaysia. You know, the two British territories, of course. Not any other part of those areas. The Philippines are right next to Malaysia, duh. So how could it not be a part of that formula as well? Well, not only was it part of it, it was the actual Ophir. Malaysia was not and could not be. We'll also address that a little in this video. We'll probably do a whole video on that, although, to be frank with you, it's really not worth it because they don't even have a coherent claim coming from Malaysia at all. Especially when you have maps that go past there. Sorry. showing where Christ and Argyre are for the Greeks, their source of gold and silver, which was not Malaysia. Now, are you ready? Let's do this. Clue number 33. We'll start with the many claims made in Wikipedia in the Ophir article, which really believes this Indian narrative because they've put the most effort and time into it, and that's very blatant and obvious. It's okay that they have a view, but we'll prove it wrong. Oh, these are out there in academia, so in many ways, but they do a good job of summing up what academia believes in this category. There's no doubt about it. And they source everything very well in this article, so there's nothing wrong with the position from a scholarly and academic viewpoint. It is just as good as any book. It does put them all in one nice little compact reference that's easy to read and see what the other general positions are out there. That's all. So Wikipedia is good for that reason, and any professor saying otherwise is really, I mean, obviously their aim is they don't want students to take the easy route and just go to Wikipedia and that's it. I get that. And you know what? That's a fair point. And we support them on that point. What we don't support them is that Wikipedia is not good, because there are good articles and there are bad articles, just as there are good books and there are bad books. That's why we all learn discernment, and we prove all things for ourselves, lest we be deceived. Missing anything whatsoever which makes a case for the Philippines, as it is almost ignored in this reference. Just one little reference to the Documentos Relativos a las Filipinas, or whatever it is, which really is not a proof in the case for Ophir. It's one small point. We haven't even brought it up, I don't think. If we did, it was a very quick reference. But that is a subtle reference compared to the blatant, overt references that are out there. And even in the series, there's over 100. So come on, Wikipedia, wake up. So they dismiss the Philippines just as the British do, showing the source of this article is likely that same kind of thinking, whether written by a Brit or not, doesn't matter. Compare that to the very few for India, nor anyone else, really, in history. Because, see, India's history never says it's Ophir. You know what it says? It says it's not Ophir. Oops, we'll show you that. Now, you have now entered Scholar Land, and it's time to play the name game. That's what you're going to see here. That's really the total support for saying that India is Ophir. We'll show you. Now, it counts as scholarship, they say. Well, that's the way they do it, and they have for thousands of years. But the name game is not scholarship. You must support it in other directions, other ways, and they have to be pretty strong, because an etymology just doesn't do it most of the time. There must be much more. A dictionary of the Bible, Smith's Bible Dictionary, by Sir William Smith. Yes, he's British. It was published in 1863. Notes the Hebrew word for parrot, tuke. Wait, does the Bible ever mention parrot? Derived from the classic Tamil for peacock, thogkai, or singalese, toki, or however you say these words. How about that? He notes there is a similarity, now get this, because let's use real logic here, in the name for a bird in two different languages. Well, imagine that. That must be conclusive evidence, right? No. In fact, he already starts laying down leaven, the leaven of the Pharisees we were warned about. That's what we're seeing here. That's what we've been exposing all along. They expand things. And this is what the British are doing. They're taking case, the Spanish found Ophir, Sheba, Tarshish in the Philippines, and now their response isn't to prove that wrong. Their response is to go out and spread leaven here, and spread leaven there, and spread leaven everywhere, all around the world. In fact, Ophir is everywhere. We're all Ophirians. No, we're not. Doesn't work that way. That's Pharisee nonsense in the way they've operated for thousands of years. And Yahusha rebuked it. The Pharisees have run Britain at least since the age of the Rothschilds, when they hijacked it during the times of Napoleon, but really even before that. Now, first thing to clarify, the word parrot is never actually used in all of the biblical translations that we can find out there, not once. So this guy is already starting to melt something else in. That's modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew is impertinent to a reference that is thousands of years old in ancient Hebrew. Impertinent. There is no actual record of ancient Hebrew having a word for parrot, whether alone it being the same as the Sanskrit word and the Tamil word for peacock. That already is nonsense, but okay. Now, you will not find the word parrot in any translation out there that we've seen. There's a list at the bottom of the screen to the left, and you'll see it's not in any of them. The word does not appear in any of those translations. Even Chabad, the largest group of modern Phariseeism, or they call it Judaism now, same thing, acknowledge parrots is modern Hebrew, not ancient Hebrew, has no use in that context at all, ever. The word here used in Solomon's journey is that his navy returned with peacocks, and it is peacocks, never parrots. Doesn't work. This is leaven meant to confuse. Here's the largest mistake Smith makes. Sanskrit is not the origin of Hebrew, but the other way around. See, that's a problem with scholarship in general, even today. They don't understand. Hebrew is the language of creation. It is the oldest language in all of history. Yes, it disappeared for a while according to the Book of Jubilees, and it was brought back in the days of Abraham, who learned it once again and read the ancient writings, which were all in, from before the flood, in Hebrew. So, had he even considered, Smith, that maybe Sanskrit for the word peacock actually originated from Hebrew and not the other way around? Well, of course not. It wouldn't fit the paradigm, especially not the one that he wishes to propagate. So, was India ever known as the ancient land of gold? Was that ever a title for it? Well, yes, it has gold, sure. It's a big country, and many do. But is it ever on record in any of ancient history as the land of gold? In fact, did it ever call itself the land of gold? The answer is no. It had gold, but it's not the land of gold. In fact, India had a source for gold, and guess where it was? It was an island to the east of India. Yes, you got it. They had an island in which they traveled by sea to the east as their source of gold. Now, we don't have to prove that's the Philippines, because this already disproves that India is Ophir, because they went to Ophir to get their gold. Yes, they had some available on the mainland. Yes, we're not saying that's not true. It is true. That is documented. However, they did not have that kind of abundance to fit Ophir in any record, even to this day. Now, we'll deal with that, and we'll deal with it all the way up to this very day. They call this island Suvarna Dvipa, or Dvipa, however you say that. Island of gold. Now, where have we heard that term before? In the east, to the east of India? Gee, it seems all the other neighbors of the Philippines called it the same name. How about that? Did they call that of Sumatra? Well, there is some reference to Sumatra having gold as well in ancient times, and there's no doubting that. But is it Ophir? Absolutely zero history on record that ever supports that. we'll deal with that in another video. So, who was this Isle of Gold in the east? It was the Philippines. That's who it was. Because we have the map, and we'll show you once again. Well, we'll get there. But notice first that if the Island of Gold we all know as Ophir, the Greeks knew as Christ, and India had the same name in their language with the same meaning. See that? Yes, this is Suvarna Dwipa. Yes, is that Christ? It's the same word. Island of Gold, Isle of Gold. You got it. And Ophir is an isle of gold. Okay? So it cannot be the mainland of India, which is not an island. See, India knew that. That's why they named their Island of Gold. Isle of Gold, and they reference the Isle of Silver too. Not mainland India. Doesn't fit. It's already out, but let's go a little deeper. In fact, this land of gold was known throughout the coastlands of India, according to history, from the Bay of Bengala to Ceylon, Sri Lanka, to the other coast on the west side, Gujarat and Sindhu. Pretty much the whole coast of India knew and was trading in these stories of what is ultimately Ophir, its source of gold in major abundance, which is not mainland India, but an isle to the east, not India. This author then mentions something interesting. We covered the purpose of the Erythraean Sea, if you remember, in part 2. This records that the Greeks were trading in India, and laughably he suggests that they could not reach the east coast of India, only the west coast. Really? And they couldn't possibly go even further. Really? Because history never, ever records such. That is his conjecture into the article. That's all. And it's based on a poor bias that really fits this Indian and ultimately British narrative. Because they traveled further than India and all the way to the east, we have Greek history to prove it. Now, he is placing either the author of his source of information, one or the other, either him or his source, as the captain among the Greeks. So that makes the purpose about as good as any reference could be. And he's in India at this point. So he's in the east already, in the Orient, at the beginning of it. So not really that far from Christ, in fact. The Greek source of gold in the east. What this proves, though, is that India is most certainly not Christ, and we know that Christ is Ophir. They knew it. This author then goes into the Purpolis, which will read you his and then the translation directly from the Purpolis, which we have. His account of the exploration of the mouth of the Ganges and beyond is, therefore, probably based on information which he gathered in ports along the northwest coast of India. Now, if this guy is right and that's true, that's okay, because it proves India knew it was not Ophir. Oops. And if not true, well, India still was not Ophir. So either way, so either this captain went to Ophir or he certainly knew where it was enough that he could give good directions. Now the information contained only vague, he says. Really? He calls them vague? See if you agree. Indications about the exact location of the places mentioned. Okay. The writer was told about a mainland region called Golden. Christ means Isle of Gold, not just golden, just so you know. The most eastern continent. He does not ever, in the Purpolis, use the word continent. He just says eastern lands, basically. Toward the Orient. Now, from India, that would be the far east. Situated around, above, beyond the Ganges mouth. Clearly, it's beyond, because it's east of India and the Ganges is there. Duh. Downwards from opposite to or near the same river, however, and also in extreme eastern part. Again, not India. India is not extreme. I mean, is this really that hard? Nor even Malaysia, really, is not extreme. The extreme of the East would be the Philippines. Of the inhabited world, lying exactly towards sunrise, no, actually underneath it, but good enough, i.e. due east, lay an oceanic island of the same name. Now, it's interesting that he would say of the same name, because we're talking about the word golden and the word light. And Ophir is known as golden and light. It actually originates, when you look at it in the Hebrew, it's A-U-P-I-R. When you look at the ancient Hebrew letters, letter for letter, it's not actually O. It doesn't start with an O. I'll show you that in a minute. And when you look at that, Ophir, the A-U-R is actually literally the Hebrew word for light. Right there in that word, it is the word for light. Now, why would Ophir refer to light? Well, because it's the land of creation, the region of light itself, where Yahuwah said, "Let there be light," even. The Greeks do not only identify one island, but two, one of gold, Christ, and one of silver, Argyle. That's the biblical Ophir, according to Josephus even. And Tarshish would be the land of silver, whereas Ophir gold, all the same. Now here's our translation of the Purpolis from about 100 AD that we've been using with directions to Christ and Argyle. The last part of the inhabited world toward the east. That's pretty clear. Under the rising sun itself, beyond the land of this China, which brought silk to India. So what isles, and yes, it must be plural, fall east of India, and even further east of China? The Philippines, not India, nor even Sumatra. Neither of those fit. We even have a map of this route the Greeks took, and this is from 43 AD. Notice you pass Sri Lanka, so sorry, not it. You pass Sumatra, oops, not it either. So then you turn the corner and head northwest to what would be Mindanao, Philippines, and then further north to the big island of Luzon, Philippines. Christ, the land of gold, Luzon, Ophir, the land of silver, Mindanao, still to this very day. Now, these are not Malaysia. I have yet to see any article, book, nor video that covers this appropriately to even earn the right to draw a conclusion, because these etymologies and hacking of history just doesn't do it. And here's the reference where Josephus equates the biblical Ophir with Christ, the Latin Aurea, Chersonesus, that's what the Latins called it, the Greeks called it Christ, the Indians called it Savarna, Dweepa. It's all the Isle of Gold, it's all the same place, and it all originates in Ophir, Philippines, not mainland China at all. They go on to draw conclusions, and they haven't actually done any research yet, but let's hear them out. They claim the best fit would be Puvar on the coast of Kerala. Now, why is it the best fit? Is it known for gold? Well, no, not actually, but it has a P and an O and an R. Forget that they're in the wrong order. Come on, that doesn't matter. You don't need to, because see, we can just play Scrabble and move them around. That's scholarship. Yeah, and then somehow extrapolate that into the Hebrew language, a totally different language. But why should that matter? Then, as scholars do, they say others suggest, they do this all the time. Others suggest Bepor. Well, no, don't tell me, I see it. It also has a P, an O, and an R. Again, in the same wrong order, but that works, right? Nice. Now, we're really getting scientific, right? Of course, I'm making fun of this way of thinking because it's not scholarly, yet this is pawned off to us as scholarship. The problem, the Hebrew word Ophir doesn't even have an O. It starts with an aleph, which is always an A in Hebrew and never an O, ever, nor any other letter or sound, nor is it ever silent. Period. There's no way to explain that away. The second letter is Wa, or U. It's actually the origin of the chemical symbol for gold, the true land of gold, A-U. And it's Ophir. A-U can be pronounced O in sound, that's fine, but it is not O in letter. So now they only have a P and R in common in the wrong order. Still work? Logic? Both these areas are right on the coast that admitted in their own histories that they were not Ophir and that their source, Ophir, was said to be to the east of India, an island. So, India knows it's not Ophir. Another says, no, it's another place called Abhira. Because, well, the others get away with stupid claims, so why shouldn't we, right? Right, exactly. We could go all over the world and find something that sounds like, oh no, actually it doesn't have to even sound like it. It just has to have some of the same letters, which don't even translate from language to language back into Hebrew most of the time. The funny thing is the Purpurless identifies this group in India as not being Ophir. Oops, the Abhira tribe full well knows that they were not Ophir. It then says that Jewish tradition claims, I'd love it when they do that. Why don't they give any reference? They really don't. There's an anchor, but still, you would think they could do a little better than to just throw that in, but they do this all the time. And it's meant to confuse you, take you around in circles until you read it all and say, oh, well, I guess nobody really knows. No one can find Ophir. Yeah. Just ask Dr. Michael Rood. He spends, 20 minutes on a video, all to conclude in the end, nobody really knows where it is. Then why did you make a video? Anyway. Okay, so they're claiming that there's a place in India named for one of the sons of Joktan. We haven't actually found that yet. Looking for it still, but haven't found it. So which one? It doesn't say, so not easy to find. Now, not actually in India, no, because it's not really based on that. And it's not actually Joktan's son, but otherwise they're pretty close, right? They're referring to Tajikistan, which once had a capital named Yoktan, which is Joktan's Hebrew name. I would agree, and we'll give them that, but that's not India, is it? And would have no connection whatsoever. And why is it even in this entry in here? To confuse, to deceive, that's why it's there. That would be because he and his sons, Yoktan, actually live fairly close to Tajikistan in Mashhad, Iran today. And that's recorded very well in the Book of Jubilees, and also Josephus agrees with that. And they're taking him out of context when they're saying Tajikistan, but again, they're not that far off. Now that's not India, is it? And sure would like to know how exactly Solomon got all those ships all the way up there through the mountains. Because he didn't, that's why. That was the place near Mesha, the first place where Joktan and his sons lived during the time of the Tower of Babel. And then they migrated from there to Sephar, a mount of the east, both references to the Far East, specifically to the Philippines, the land of the Garden of Eden. We prove that very firmly. What they're doing is messing up a reference from Josephus because they can't seem to understand what "and" means, the word. He says Joktan's sons, Ophir, Sheba, and Havilah. This is all in Latin, so Sabaeus is Sheba, it's the same thing. And you see Ophir, Evilat is Havilah. Especially inhabited, so here's where they live. Now, where's the Bible say in Genesis 10? Misha. Well, what's Josephus doing here? He's telling us where Misha is. They inhabited from the Kofan, an Indian river. Now, it does say Indian, yes, but it's not referring to India. That's one side of the border, by the way, that he is identifying here. And then they ignore the other and, yes, another territory to consider in the mix. He's laying out an entire area here, not just the Kofan. It says, and in part of area adjoining to it. We know where that is. So these two lands run together. What do you call that? A border. So he lived on the border of these two lands. What are they? Well, the Kofan River is well documented and still survives in history as the modern Kabul River. Not far from Tajikistan, by the way, but not there. That would be wrong. It is in Afghanistan, and the area is the ancient Old Persian name directly, or Aryan, some would say, where we derive modern Iran. It's all the same, according to history. Joktan lived on the border of Afghanistan and Iran, and look, right there on the border is Misha, Mashhad, Iran, right where Joktan lived. This stuff is not that difficult. A 10th century Jew, or Pharisee really, called it Serendip, which is the name for Sri Lanka at the time. Problem, Sri Lanka is ancient Ceylon, who also knew Ophir was to the east of it and followed and propagated those legends as they were heard there, according to the references we showed you. And this is supposed to be isles, by the way, not just one island. Does not work. And by the way, Ceylon, or Sri Lanka, is not east of India. It's east of the tip, yeah, but it's not east of the country. So that would be ludicrous, and it's considered India in ancient times all the same. They use the Greek Septuagint, which has variants of Ophir, and the word Sophir, so it adds an S to the front of it. But we have a massive problem with that. You notice we don't use the Septuagint very often. If you were translating the word Ophir, which is a Hebrew word of Hebrew origin from the Hebrew Bible, and it's actually spelled, if you want to put it in English letters, A-U-P-I-R. Not O, not even O. Would you change the A-U to an S-O? How do you get from A-U to so? It doesn't work. What kind of scholar could not see through that nonsense? But here's why they're trying to go there. They're trying to force a fit here, which doesn't. There's a claim that Sophira, or Sophira, not sure how you pronounce it in the ancient Egyptian, is the ancient Egyptian name for the area of India, or at least an area within India, which is actually probably more so the case. Well, except Egyptian is not Hebrew, is it? So how do you go from, well, it's a Hebrew word, but wait a minute, in the Greek, it's S-O. It shouldn't be. Greek has those letters, so it should not be rendering it with S-O. That would be absolute nonsense. Even if it did O-P, that would be okay. At least you're getting the same or similar sound out of it. But S, where did the S come from? That is not supported. And scholars should know better, but they don't bother to know better. They don't want to know better. They wish to deceive in some of these cases. Hebrew has a name for India, though. Did you know that? Yep, it's in the Bible. It was used in Esther twice, but also far further into antiquity, as the book of Jubilees, in the same time frame of Moses, who wrote that book as well, the same time as Genesis, records it as Hodu, or however you want to pronounce it. And Hodu is what Esther records as well. That is the Hebrew name for India. Is that Sophir? No, that's ignorance. And applying Egyptian to the Greek, trying to get to the Hebrew, what kind of nonsense shenanigans are they playing? And also, the Egyptians have a recorded name for India too in history. Archaeology even shows that they called it Hindway, very close to India or Hodu. How about that? Or something like that. Probably pronounced it wrong. But that's not logic, and certainly not Bible, folks. It just doesn't work. See, the Philippines is, still today, number 2 in untapped gold reserves in the ground right now. Now that's the land of gold. Now I know South Africa's number 1, and we deal with this in parts 1 and 2 and 3 and so on. But they have only been mining gold in a gold rush status for a little over 100 years. The Philippines has had a consistent gold rush since 1000 BC and really before, we prove. They have a concurrent recorded history which we have covered in full, and thus number 1 in gold in all of history. India? Oops, is not. Think about it. The difference. India is 11 times the size of the little old Philippines. Yet, the Philippines has more gold. Ha! How about that? Pretty sure that outranks and wins that debate hands down. Debate over. Britain lost again. No matter what angle you try to look at this from. Of course, India is still yet too close for Solomon's 3-year round-trip journey. See, the Bible is brilliant in identifying these things, and when you really test them, put it all together, you find your answers. They're right there. The Bible has the answers. It always has. As with the size, the speed, the methods of that era, you can test the ships. We did that. That's in a previous video as well. His navy would have made it to the Philippines, not just India. That's way too close, actually. It's a year off. It would have taken an extra year longer to travel to and from the Philippines, fitting directly the 3-year round-trip journey in the whole formula. India doesn't fit. Sorry. Oh yeah, and major problem. We have mapped the Book of Jubilees when Shem divided this portion of Asia. Now, we covered this in our Flood series, parts 3, 3a, and 4. Between his sons and his oldest son, Elam, received, according to the text, the whole land of India. All of it. Now, our Foxad is where Ophir, Joktan, Ophir come from. They're the lineage of our Foxad. Through Shem, he receives essentially the northwestern portion of Iran, essentially almost from the Caspian Sea all the way over into Afghanistan. Perhaps some of the other surrounding areas to the north. It doesn't have that much specificity, but enough to get a pretty good idea. And then, of course, we know where Misha is. Now, granted, not too far away, but it just doesn't fit. Also, this view completely ignores that Ophir migrated to the far east after Babel. See, they ignore the second half of Genesis 10:26, where it says that the sons of Joktan traveled. Because Misha means departure. So they were in Misha, the place of departure, and then they went to Sephar. It says, as they goeth toward Sephar, a mount of the east. Sephar, the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, in the Philippines. Mount of the east, the holy mountain of Yahuwah God, in the Garden of Eden, in the far east, on the eastern side of Shem's territory. We prove all of that out in detail. Also, he did not stay in Iran. In fact, he migrated. And that is very clear from the passage. So, nor would Solomon build a navy to go to northwestern Iran? Really? Or Tajikistan? Come on. Those are absolutely insane thoughts. So, Is India Ophir the land of gold? Read my lips. Though it does pass the first surface test of resources for sure. No doubt about that. That's because it's near the Philippines, sharing many of the same resources like red sandalwood. Now I know, actually, you don't find the Philippines on the distribution map. If you go to different websites, you won't find the Philippines as having red sandalwood. Is that a problem? It's the national tree of the Philippines, and they don't have it. Come on, that's not scientific. It's amazing how they have messed up this whole thing. They try to stretch it in many directions, from Peru, which we obliterated. Then now India. Yeah, right. Wrong. To Malaysia. Sumatra. Nope, doesn't work. Even to Britain itself, as Tarshish, which we've already proven, is absolutely ludicrous. There is no claim here. Nothing to even review, really just a shell of speculation based on words, etymologies, and that's pretty much it. And this is the strongest of all of the other cases, and it fails miserably. The Philippines is the ancient land of gold, Ophir, and no one can disprove that. Certainly, the British never did. Spain won the debate, and they just keep it alive with new claim after claim, but not because they ever disproved Spain to be wrong. It found Ophir and Tarshish. 3 years, and no one has proven our Solomon's Gold series wrong either. As we keep saying and supporting over and over again, there really is no debating this point. The Philippines is the land of gold in all of history, period. It is time this knowledge be restored. For those about to comment in ignorance, yep, we always get them. We dare you to watch Solomon's Gold series by The God Culture, the original channel, to prove the Philippines is in fact Ophir. Even here, we are breaking these into sound bites and clear points, but watch how all 100 clues tie together, and this series will blow you away. Thank you for watching 100 Clues. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the bell and like us on our new Facebook, The God Culture space original. If you wish to skip ahead, go to the God Culture YouTube channel and watch our Solomon's Gold series. We have it available in English or Tagalog. There will be a link on the next screen. We can know this truth and be confident this belongs to the Philippines and no one can disprove it. Until next time.